What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
I'm excited for this week's episode because we have a lot of music to talk about, including new albums from Lana Del Rey, Fall Out Boy, Black, JPEGMAFIA and Danny Brown, AugustBurnsRed, Ne Obliviscaris, and a whole lot more. But before we get into that, as always, we're going to run through some singles, starting with this new one from Anyma called Explore Your Future. It's another long-awaited ID that lived up to the hype. I don't know if we're heading towards an album or not with this whole release or not, but I hope that that's the case because everything he's released under this alias has been fantastic. What are your thoughts on it, man?
Yeah, man. I've been really intrigued with Anyma's production style. It's polished, and I just really love this track, man. So I kind of hope we get an album, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and for those that don't know, he is one half of Tale of Us.
Right. Which implies that all of these tracks will be dropped at, many of their upcoming shows.
Yeah, with Ultra happening last weekend, I'm wondering how many of the IDs that dropped this weekend are going to be trickling out this time next year still like these ones are.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I guess these ones are probably more connected to the Afterlife festivals, but really good to finally get this one.
Yeah, same. I've been really intrigued with this project, so we'll see. I think if we did get an album, it would kind of feel a lot like that Tin Liquor album we got last year. So,
oh, I wouldn't complain about that.
Not at all.
All right, man. Talk to me about this new Lane 8 track, Woman.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man. Let's go. It's a 10-minute Lane 8 track. I will say that 2.5 minutes of build-up is kind of extra, but it is progressive house. So what can you do when we do get a pretty sweet payoff at about that 2-minute and 45-second mark? So
don't get mad at him putting the prog and progressive, man.
I'm not mad at him, but it again. 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
It is a lot, man. The track's great. It's a 10-minute Lane 8 song, so of course it is. I had no idea that him and Le Youth were on the same label until I noticed the similarities in their recent album artworks. That's
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a collaboration that I would absolutely love to hear sometime soon. I know that they've remixed each other's music, but I want to hear an original collaboration between the two of them built from the ground up for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're both great producers, and Lane 8 is, fuck, dude. Lane 8 is Lane 8, so.
Yeah, the label is This Never Happened.
Yes, that's actually Lane 8's label. He also puts on shows called This Never Happened, where they do not allow you to record anything, which is super fucking neat. It's almost as if it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's kind of weird watching footage of things online and you just see only a sea of phones for most big moments of shows. I'm torn on it,
Somebody on the internet was talking about the Hollow show at Ultra, Eric Prince's Hollow show, and was like, yeah, man, this is going to be great, except for everybody's phone is going to be in front of me and I'm 5'6". And it's like,
yeah.
Oof. yeah, that'll
Good
do
luck,
it.
buddy. Get to the front.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Although I wonder if that's one of those shows that looks better a little further back.
It's got to be debatable with that show, because the
I wonder if the perspective changes the closer you get to it.
It might, man. It was pretty neat seeing those. I wish that he released his full set. I don't think he did.
I don't think he has yet.
I think that
we'll see though.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's going to be doing it at Coachella, so
I
don't think he wants to give it away.
Yeah, there is a full Hollow set on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's professionally filmed or not, but the audio is really top notch.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That one's awesome. It looks like Hollow's been updated a few times since then as well.
It's got to be like V3 or V4 at this point.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah. I think it's like V5 for sure.
Hell yeah.
Next up, we got an Eli and Fur remix of Believe by Bob Moses. It's cool hearing them breathe new life into a late album deep cut like this. It does a nice job of making it feel new without doing too much. What were your thoughts on this one?
You hit the nail on the head there, man. This is a great remix of an already great track, and you're right, they breathed a little bit of new life into something that, it's a deep cut on the album, and it's really good.
Yeah, I think it's the last song on the album, if I'm not mistaken.
Eli and Fur have this way of way of doing that. They've remixed Bob Moses before, which is why when I saw it pop up, I was like, "Yep, that's going on the playlist."
Are they the ones that remixed Butterflies? Is that the one?
They did one of those. They did one of those remix, but there's another remix that's just fucking out of control.
Yeah, I remember you showing me some.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Moving on, we got a new one from KLOUD called Black. So I've been wanting to talk to you about KLOUD for a while now. I got really excited when I saw that we'd be getting some new music soon. And while I do enjoy some straightforward techno, it's not exactly the otherworldly blend of Boys Noise and Kandinsky that their debut album Autonomy was. And I'm not trying to like put them in a box. I'm happy to hear that he, she, or they aren't a one-dimensional EDM act, but I'm bummed that you still haven't heard the music that made me a fan of them or anything resembling it yet. I didn't realize until after adding this that it's part of a new EP. We can review the rest of it if you're interested, but I wanted to explain it a little bit first. So long story short, I do like it. It's just not exactly what I was hoping for or indicative of their previous work. But what did you think of it?
I love that you added a hard techno track and not me. I really love that.
Yeah.
I really like this track. I'm going to go back now because I did hear this song and I was like, damn, So I already have Autonomy, their 2020 release, in my Listen to Next playlist, which is massive. I'll give you that, but I'll get through it soon.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, maybe we'll throw this EP on next week if you want some more of the techno. Yeah. It's all pretty good if you enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did enjoy this a lot. So.
Yeah. All right, man. Talk to me about this new one from ILLENIUM and Jake called With All My Heart. How you feeling about it?
It's ILLENIUM. It is poppy. It is good. It is classic ILLENIUM. I'm actually getting pretty hyped for the album.
Is this classic ILLENIUM? Because I've always associated it more with like a rock sound than a pop sound.
Man, I really do like the way he blends that kind of guitar into his music, and it's in this track too. It's more pop than rock on this one, but it's still got his DNA all over it. We'll see what the album does, man. Do you know the release date offhand for this one?
It's in May sometime, but I like him a lot more when he's working in the like straightforward dance or rock realm than I do when he's working in the white guy pop R&B realm. Like this just sounds like lowest common denominator EDM, and I hate it. Not my favorite.
Yeah, it's the curse of all semi-popular EDM musicians. It's the what are we going to call it? Are we going to call it the Calvin Harris?
Yeah, except his last track's a fucking banger, so I don't even know what that means anymore.
Well, that means we have about a decade until ILLENIUM drops a trance banger. Is what that means.
Yeah. I think the first single that we covered off of this release, I'm going to look at it really quick just so I could... Love Me a Little. Love that track. That was excellent. The rest since then have just not been doing it for me.
Interesting.
But we'll review the album. It's April 28th.
Neat.
All right, man. How you feeling about this new Rodriguez Jr. track called Amplify?
All right. So, number one, hell yeah. Number two, I absolutely love it when Lizette and Rodriguez Jr. get together. They did.
Is that the vocalist?
That's the vocalist,
Okay.
But she's not just a vocalist. If you've watched their Rodriguez Jr. Circle set, it's with Lizette. They're both on that cliff producing live, and she's putting down she's putting down vocals. It is very good. I recommend it to literally anybody that's ever even like heard of Rodriguez Jr. Oh, you heard that set? Yeah, you got to. And there is such a good match when they get to produce together. This track is obviously no different. It is heavy, or it's not heavy, but it's heavy on my heart. You know what I'm saying? Hell yeah, love this track.
Yeah, man, it sounds like late 2000s Armin, and that's like a high compliment coming from me.
Right.
And we cover a lot of Rodriguez Jr. remixes, but his originals are just phenomenal, man.
They're next level.
It sounds like the EDM that we grew up on taken to a new level. That's it.
Agreed. Super agree. Yeah,
really good shit.
He does it right, man.
All right, we got 2 new tracks from Kaiserdisco called Do It and Oh Yeah. And I might be getting old because these were a little too techno for me. Brandon, what about you?
Honestly, man, these tracks are a little simpler than we normally get from Kaiserdisco. You've liked a number of his tracks before, and I think it's how simple and just like ever so slightly industrial. It's kind of like he didn't want to pick a lane and wanted to do something a little bit more palatable, you know. But I didn't like these as much as I'd liked his other stuff, and normally he's an automatic add to the playlist, but I guess I'm gonna have to skim through them now.
Oh no, you're gonna have to do some research.
No.
All right, man. Let's talk about this new one, Rhyme Deaths from MK and Dolla. So I saw the story behind this one floating around Twitter a few weeks ago. Apparently, it was a track that they'd been playing an unfinished version of as a live ID. Demand for the release of it got so high that they ended up having to finish it and put it out, but they did not have the rights to the sample in it. So shout out to Q-Tip for signing off on it and giving them the rights.
Awesome.
The end result is a fucking banger. It's cool to get the extended mix of it. I'm glad you added that. You know me so well. What'd you think of this, buddy?
Again, we're not children, bro. We can deal with an 8-minute track. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this one's only
just don't do 2 minutes of build. Just straight to the shit like
this. Shut up. I'm never gonna live that down now. This is really good, bro. This is definitely a banger. I've never paid much attention to Dolla. He kind of came in after I was raving, but I have always liked MK's music. So it has pushed me to click that little follow button on Dolla and listen to some of his other music.
Side note, but related, what do you think the fire budget for Ultra was this year?
Like the pyrotechnics budget?
Yeah, like the fire cannons go off literally every drop almost now. It's insane. Like, do they just have like a fucking pipe of gas running nonstop for this?
It can't be like natural gas. It's got to be something a little bit more explosive to move like that, right? So it's got to be like propane. They've got to have like propane trucks just like sitting there, you know?
It's impressive. It's fucking impressive.
Honestly, if I had to put a number on the budget, it's probably close to 6 figures, bro. They spend a lot of money on those productions.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it was more, like for how much it's going. Are you a fan of the new drone show, like things that are being worked into a lot of sets?
Oh yeah, like Odessa started.
Is that who started that?
I don't know who started it.
I know K5 did it. There's been a few so far. I know K5 did it at their Coliseum show. We've seen a few, but there was a few this weekend at Ultra as well, I believe.
Yeah, I like it. I've never seen it in person, but I do like it. But I feel like it should be something that's special and not overused. Like, I believe it was 2018 when Odessa headlined Coachella, and we were watching the stream. We weren't there, but it was pretty cool that the drones went up into the sky and made the Odessa logo. You know, It was pretty sick, man. That was the first time I had seen it at a concert, and it felt really new and fresh. But after I saw the videos of the K5 concert and it was doing that too, they were really creative with it, right? I mean, the drones were making the dead mouse head and like the mouse head in the sky, which is super cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's going to be really quickly overdone if done constantly. You said a few people did it at Ultra?
Maybe just one. I definitely saw one. It was like a big head with like glasses on. I'm not sure whose set it was a part of, but I definitely saw at least one this weekend.
Were they trying to make fun of Moby or something?
I hope so. Going to Moby's party and How I Met Your Mother. All right, man, let's move on. We got a new one from Mangoo, Eurobeat, and Rumor called Dancing Alone. I thought this one was okay. A little bit generic, but not bad. Did you feel any differently about it?
Oh, man. So the other week...
Song of the week?
No. Okay. So the other week I was reminiscing about Mangoo's Eurodancer track, and I had sent it to you after I'd listened to Miracle by Calvin Harris. And it kind of prompted me to follow his Spotify. It turns out he's been continually releasing music since he released that one like 15 fucking years ago. This is a brand new track. Obviously, there's a lot of trend chasing happening here, but I mean, I thought it was good. It didn't blow my mind. Figured we could talk about him.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a bad track. Just a little. I don't know. I guess like I struggled to formulate notes on it one way or the other. It was one of those.
It was alright. If it was dropped in a set, I'd dance.
Yeah, there you go. That's the review. That's the Brandon's Face review. I'll co-sign that.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to this new one from Indira Paganato and Nina Kravitz called White Horse. Talk to me about this one.
High BPM techno is so in right now. That's also not a joke. It's like really in right now.
Oh, I know. The sped up craze. Yeah.
I've been a fan of Nina's for a while. I've never heard of Indira, but I think maybe I should. I liked this track. It's fast. It's not my typical style of techno. You know, I like the 128 to 130 BPM more than this 145 is I think what it is. Somebody correct me. But yeah.
It's a lot. It's a high number.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. It kind of makes me dizzy, but it is very good. Did not hate it, but not a track I can listen to every day for sure. Let's move into the pop realm of things. We got a new one from Ellie Goulding called By the End of the Night. I don't think I'll be revisiting this one until we review the album in full, but she still sounds good. I wish every track on her new album was going to sound like a 90s trance track the way Miracle with Calvin Harris did, but I know that's wishful thinking. This is decent though. I'm still excited for her new album. What about you?
I really like this track, man. I've always been a fan of Ellie's voice. I mean, it's good, but it doesn't like feel like her. Does that make sense?
We should just do like how we do with like Fall Out Boy and MCR. This ain't lights, bro. This ain't lights.
Yeah,
she's never gonna top let it unfold you, man.
Oh my god.
No,
definitely.
It's good, man. I think you and I will always be a fan of a certain era of her career and follow along regardless. She's an incredible vocalist. I just don't think this song's a hit.
There you go. That's fair.
We got a new one from Ellise called Broken Boys and Bitter Bitches. Our friend of the podcast, Anthony, has mixed a few songs for her. I don't know if he mixed this one or not. I think he did. But friendship bias aside, I thought this song was very good. Her voice is great. The lyrics, very fun and clever. Production's really dynamic. And of course, the mix is great. As are all Anthony Reeder mixes, but I'm a big fan of this one. I hope that this is all part of an album rollout or something because I'm enjoying it. What about you?
Yeah, man, I actually really like this song. I love the production on this track, man. Like the production is really good on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like a lot of the instrumentals got this like high range. A lot of the drums have this low range, and her voice just sits like right in the middle. It's a really good song.
It's really neat. Whoever mixed it did well, and if it was Anthony, good job, bro.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to this new one from Flo and Missy Elliott called Fly Girl. So this is my first time listening to Flo, and I'm kind of bummed that I waited so long. They're an R&B trio out of the UK that kind of remind me of 3LW with a little bit of Fifth Harmony mixed in, but in a much more 90s R&B way. It's hard to describe, but if you heard this song, then you know what I mean. It's cool to see them not only interpolate Missy, but also get her on the track for a verse. I love the renaissance that Missy's been having these past couple of years. She more than deserves it. I hit follow on Flo's page, so we'll definitely be hearing a lot more from them. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, please, bro. This feels like an early 2000s R&B banger, man. This is great. Missy's verse awesome. Obviously is great, and you're right, she deserves it. But man, this track was really good.
Do you remember 3LW?
I couldn't name a song, but I do the name.
What was their?
I remember the name.
Play's Gonna Play, I think was their big hit. Right. Fun fact: they were an unlockable team in NBA Street Volume 2 on the PlayStation. And it was always fun to play as them.
That's funny.
Moving on to this new one from Chloe called Body Do. I did not realize her new album drops this week, or I probably wouldn't have added this. She actually dropped another new song today. Go figure. But we've covered every solo song that she's dropped up until her new album. So I felt it was appropriate to still add this one. It's a little more upbeat than her last few singles have been. I'm excited to see how it'll fit in with the rest of the album. What did you think of this one? Did you like it?
Hey, man, Chloe has yet to put out a bad track, if you ask me. This is great, man. It's definitely my tempo for R&B. I'm very stoked for the album.
Good. I am very stoked for it as well. That's probably my most anticipated this week, and it is a stacked week.
Yep.
All right, we have arrived at my song of the week. It is a new one from Victoria Monet and Lucky Daye called Smoke. It's two of my favorites, doing an up-tempo R&B duet about smoking with jazz and funk influence throughout it, and incredible vocal trade-offs. The music video is fantastic. I fucking love this one. Did you?
I knew this was going to be your song of the week, man.
Of course, dude. It had to be. It had to be.
Yeah, man. I like this song. We're 3 for 3 with the R&B this week, and I got to tell you, that's rare for Brandon.
Extremely rare, but yeah,
3
Flo,
for 3
Chloe,
with
Victoria,
a Lucky Day feature.
And we got an album to talk about shortly that'll be R&B as well. It's been a good week for R&B, man.
Sure has.
Let's talk about a hip hop track, because we have not been talking about a lot of hip hop this year. This is the single off of the upcoming album from Larry June and the Alchemist. The song's called Palisades, California. It features Big Sean. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, this album should be pretty good. I liked this. It doesn't seem like a traditional Alchemist production, though. Regardless, I did like it, and I loved the single artwork with the old, there was that, like a Testarossa and an old 913.
Yeah, we got, 2 Ferraris and a Porsche.
Yeah.
Huh, I wonder why not 3 Ferraris. Anyways.
They are expensive. So
I'm pretty sure that you can get a contact high going from Smoke into this song. I think the beat, you're right, is a little different, but it is phenomenal by Alchemist. He killed it on this one. The sit down and listen to this shit laid back Larry June verse was great. And the Big Sean verse I could personally do without, but overall I really liked this track.
You know, I actually liked the Big Sean verse. I'm not a Big Sean hater.
But I wouldn't consider myself a Big Sean hater either. I just didn't like this verse.
That's fair.
But I do think it is right to kind of assume that, because most people are one or the other on him, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Like years ago, I stumbled upon an internet conversation. I think it was on Facebook back when I was on Facebook, and somebody posted Big Sean, and they were like, "Oh, this mumble rap sounds the same," and they're like, "Bro, have you even heard Big Sean? He does not mumble." Like,
you can criticize him for a lot of things. Mumble rap is not one of them.
I just thought it was funny, man. It always sticks in my head every time I think about or hear a Big Sean verse. You know.
My favorite Big Sean related internet thing is I can't remember what album it was after, but he came back with some singles after a few years, and somebody was like, Big Sean did it right. He took this time away, got his head right, and came back making still terrible music.
Oh, that's funny.
And I like Big Sean, but that was funny.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man.
I'm sure he laughed at that one.
Oh, he had to. If you have a sense of humor, you have to laugh at that.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't even think it was personal. That's just a good joke.
Right.
All right, let's talk about this new one from GROUPLOVE called Hello. What are your thoughts on it?
We have a new album announcement. We have a new song from GROUPLOVE. I have been a fan of this band for a little over a decade now, thanks to my wife. We reviewed their last album, and I think that was
Good
2021, and seems like a return to form for them stylistically to their first couple of albums, which I love. I loved the last album, and honestly, I have no doubt that I'll love this one too. I don't think they've ever put out a bad record to date. So I'm excited. What did you think about it?
Their music always goes between pleasant and exciting. This one leans a little more towards the pleasant side, and I enjoyed it for that. I'm excited to hear the album. Although I do hope they kind of pick up the intensity at times on it, because I like it when they're in that very energetic mode.
I know. Yeah, we talked about that when we reviewed their last album, because it was almost angry, and like his voice like can't sound angry, but like he did. It was interesting.
It was like he got those like 3-foot-long pixie sticks and cut the like tops off 4 of them and just chugged them before that first song.
Perfect.
It was great. All right, let's talk about this new one from Silverstein called Poison Pill. It's off the deluxe edition of Misery Made Me, coming out pretty soon. What are your thoughts on it?
It's funny. I saw you added this to the playlist, and I was like, how the fuck did I miss this? I have no clue. Yeah, I like this track. I can see why it wasn't
sneaky, sir.
We've been watching Adam Sandler movies lately.
They're all great.
I like this track, but I can see why it wasn't included in the original album. It's not cohesive enough, and it's one of those things where it belongs on a deluxe edition, but we all deserve to hear it, you know?
Brandon, I love Silverstein. You really love Silverstein. This one's a little phoned in and formulaic. I think we can say it. I think that's why it didn't make the album. It's a good song. It's a little predictable though. They do it well. They're very good at doing this well.
They're good at a lot of things.
This only made me like them more. To know to not put a song like this on the real album shows that's veteran smarts right there.
Exactly.
Because that album's great. This would have brought it down a tiny bit, but as a bonus, hell yeah, I'm happy to have it.
Yep.
They did a music video for it as well, so check that out if you're
that's
interested.
interesting.
That doesn't really happen for a lot of deluxe edition songs, right? Especially in the rock realm.
Yeah. Silverstein's fun with their video content. They did in 2020 once lockdowns began heavily in Canada because that's where they're from. They did a what do they call it? They called it Quarantine. And then a lot of their music videos are really good, man. I rewatch at least once a year the Smile in Your Sleep video because it just is so 2004. You know,
that song fucking rules.
Oh fuck yeah, it does.
Quarantine. That's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was great, man. They're all just cheesy dads, you know.
Speaking of music from my teenage years, you're bringing me back way farther with this next track. You added one from Immortal, who I have not fucking listened to since like the early 2000s.
You're welcome.
The song's called War Against All. How you feeling about it?
So when I was 13, 14, I would come home from school and I would jump on the computer and I would jump on SoulSeek and I would try to discover new music. And naturally, this was when I was discovering metal. I found Immortal almost 20 years ago and was blown away by their album Sons of Northern Darkness. I immediately called Record Alley, saw that they had a copy, went over and bought that. This is more of the same. It is battle black metal from Norway. Their new album called I think it's War Against All is what it's called, comes out on May 26th, and I am stoked for it. Are you like a fan of Immortal? I didn't know that you knew them.
Yeah, I knew them, but I could not get into any of their stuff back then. But my tastes have changed a lot since then. So I went into this track with an open mind, and I still do not like them. But props to them for still doing their thing, just not for me.
Yep. Fair.
All right, that does it for our singles this week. But before we move on to the EPs and albums, we have a very special song premiere. We have a new one from Seagull Intervention called Neuteronomy that will be dropping everywhere Friday, March 31st. If you like what you hear, be sure to add it wherever you get your music. Here we go.
Here we go.
These worthless fucks exist till they all of the bullshit down the truth. Why would I try to please you? According to a pact of death. Let the city in the sky is found where I just like yourself. And all that lies below is eternal. I'll take my chances down in you. Powers they come and appear in the dire sea.
what a song that was. Thank you to Seagull Intervention for, number one, allowing us to listen to it before it drops tomorrow. And also for the great fucking music and great album artwork on this one. John, what did you think about this track from Seagull Intervention?
Dear God. Yeah, it was an honor to premiere that song because it fucking rips, man. The vocals are ferocious and dynamic. I'm really digging this one. Again, this one is being released everywhere March 31st. Make sure to add it wherever you get your music if you enjoyed it. What did you think of this one, man?
Man, I gotta say, dude, the vocals on this one are polished, and for as harsh as they are clean as fuck. I'm getting major See You Next Tuesday vibes on this one for both the instrumentals and the vocals. We have some really neat instrumentals on this one, and it really seems like they A, know how to play their instruments, and B, are not holding back. I would not be surprised if they end up booking some tours or doing something special in the deathcore world, because this is very good.
Yeah, again, shout out Seagull Intervention for letting us premiere this new one. Shout out. Great song.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man, you ready to move on to some EPs?
I sure am.
All right, we got a new one from ROSALIA and Rauw Alejandro called RR. Holy shit, man. I don't know how she keeps getting better, but she does. These songs are great. I loved every second of every one. I love that they used this EP in this music video for Beso to announce their engagement. The music video is great. They filmed it themselves while traveling together, and it ends with her right after he proposed. It's very sweet. I'm very happy for them. I don't think we've covered him before, but he's one of the biggest artists in the world, and I enjoyed his contributions to this project just as much as hers. He co-wrote Chicken Teriyaki on Motomami, so it doesn't sound like anything that we haven't heard from him or from her in a writing or production from that standpoint, but everything they do on here is done extremely well. What were your thoughts on this one, man? You enjoying these songs?
Damn, I really didn't know that he was that popular. 43 million monthly listeners. That's wild, bro.
He's ranked higher in the world than she is right now in terms of like plays.
That's insane. And she's
America's
popular.
A small country.
I guess, man. Going from Seagull Intervention to this, as I was writing my notes, was jarring to say the least. This is a fantastic EP, man. I've been trying to learn conversational Spanish, and while I'm terrible at it, I can understand like a little bit more every week. So this was like a lot of fun to like listen to and read the lyrics as I was doing it. Vampiros is a fucking banger, man.
God, I love that song.
The breakdown with the drums coming in hot is just so good, man.
Yes.
There's some really neat musicality on this one, and I really enjoyed all three of these tracks. I did not know that they were getting engaged or whatever. I saw like the like on the Spotify mobile app, you can see they have like a video playing now, and I saw that obviously they were hanging out and doing whatever they were doing, but like I didn't know that was a thing. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch the music video for Beso because I loved all three of these tracks.
Let's throw that in the show notes because I think our listeners should check that out as well. It's very, very good.
Most definitely.
And next up in the EP section, we got a new one from Gamma Intel called EM. Talk to me about this one.
In my never-ending quest for more and interesting techno, I have stumbled upon Gamma Intel. This whole EP is fucking neat, man. It's not straight up techno, and clearly Gamma Intel doesn't really care about genres because we get like a lot of really cool percussion, like a lot of cool drum and bass influence. The vocal samples are all done really well. He's based out of Rotterdam. I think 5am-SBM is an absolute fucking banger. What did you think about this one?
Oh man, could not agree with you more. I really liked this. It's the perfect mix of techno, acid, and bass music. It does not let up. The drums on this are incredible. The low end is absolutely punishing, as it should be. I didn't think that there was a bad track on here, but those first three hit different, especially 5am to SBM. That one is fucking perfect. Loved it. Really,
really cool EP, man. When I had skimmed it, because I added this one late to our collab playlist, and I remember being like, yeah, bro, I added something else. I needed to do it.
I understand.
Yep. Because I didn't add it immediately, but I needed to like preview it, and I previewed the first two tracks, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, never hesitate with an EP. They're always much easier to get through. And we did review a single or two for this, so I was happy to hear the full project as well.
Nice.
All right, moving on to the albums. First up this week, we have a new one from Lana Del Rey called Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Our reactions to the first single that we covered, A&W, were mixed. How'd you feel about the album?
John, are you a Lanita after hearing this?
I don't even know what that means, but no.
it's what her fans call herself. I'm not. However, I did enjoy this album. In pieces. It's kind of a trudge if you're not like actively listening to it, and I think that's kind of the point. It's produced by Jack Antonoff and a few other producers, but I do think that this dreary kind of melancholic album fits really well into her discography. Fits in nicely. The strings used are obviously very beautiful, and the way her voice just kind of like drapes over the music is like a totem of her sound, and she's really perfected it. You can tell that, you know, a lot of work goes into how the things sound. That's really all there is to say for me, I guess. Lyrical content isn't and has never been directed towards me with Lana Del Rey. A couple of things I don't like, though. I would have liked to hear more drums. There are some drums on this album, but I would have liked to hear more drums, or at least like some more percussion. Also, it's like
buddy, Jack Antonoff is producing it, so drums are not his strong suit.
Also, it's like an hour and 17 minutes long, man. That's a long time. That's a long album, bro. And I love long albums, don't get me wrong, but this one did not keep me as engaged as other genres would have, maybe for the lack of drums. I have this sitting somewhere around like a 5 or a 6 for me. Obviously, that's personal taste. I think it's a very beautiful record. It's just maybe not for me. My standout was actually Fingertips. I really liked that track. What did you think about Lana Del Rey's Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard?
I gave it a few chances. It just wasn't for me. There's some beautiful orchestral elements and symphonic composure worked into the production, but I have just never been able to connect with her songwriting, and that remains the case for me with this album. I'm giving it a 4. My standout is Fishtail, which is a surprise to me since it's a borderline trap R&B song produced by Jack Antonoff. But I'll give it credit where it's due. I think that's one of her better songs to date, actually.
I'll never forget sending you that screenshot where it was just Jack Antonoff bad.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, man. We got a new one from Fall Out Boy called So Much for Stardust. I went into this album really wanting to like it, but my overall feeling by the time I was done listening to it was mostly disappointment. I really liked and still like the lead single and album opener, Love from the Other Side. I hoped that would be an indication of things to come on the album, but it was not. I don't really want to hate on this one, though. It wasn't what I was hoping for, but Patrick still sounds pretty good. I Am My Own Muse was pretty tight as, I guess, a weird successor to Things for the Memories in terms of the way it incorporates strings and stuff. Even though it's sandwiched between a fucking bizarre Ethan Hawke interlude and one of my least favorite songs on the album in Flu Game. I'm giving this one a 4. My standout is Love from the Other Side. And to make sure that I wasn't just like going into it and let down because my expectations were too high, I hit play on it for my wife and I was like, tell me when you get tired of each song. And she only made it fully through the same 3 I did, which is Love from the Other Side, I Am My Own Muse, and the last song, So Much for Stardust. I don't think this is a good album. I have not heard a lot of what they did in the 2010s, but I would argue this is one of their worst albums. Am I wrong, Brandon?
I don't have it scored much higher than you, but all right. So I'm just going to dive in. So last week we talked about the new All Time Low album, and I had discovered what I didn't like about the pop punk bands who go full pop, and was pleasantly surprised actually with this album. I knew it was going to be poppier than Take This to Your Grave, obviously, but I think the mixing on this album is right where it needs to be for the sound that they are going for. This is actually probably due to the producer that they chose. They chose a guy named Neil Avron, and the early 2000s would not have been the same without his production chops on albums like Ocean Avenue, Catalyst, and even From Under the Cork Tree. He produced a very underrated album from The Used also called Artwork, which was lost on the majority of people for some reason.
We'll talk about Artwork some other time.
Okay. So back to the album. A few of these songs actually did get stuck in my head throughout the week, man. Love from the Other Side obviously is a great track. Heartbreak Feels So Good has actually like been getting stuck in my head, man. I'm like,
go jump off a bridge.
Like every day,
the
man.
banana phone sketch.
The title track was perfect as a closer for this album. There are poppier moments on this, but they're mixed in really well, I think. And after listening a few times, I got to thinking how this it kind of reminds me of a Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Hear me out. It's got the melodies, it's got like a couple of strings, it's got the hooks, it's got catchy as hell choruses, it's got all of those elements, man. The only thing it doesn't have is like the guitar mixed the same way.
Or any bohemian influence in any way.
Well, look, man, I'm glad that I went into this one with an open mind. It's not necessarily the hardcore influenced pop punk of 2002, but it is more Fall Out Boy than their last four or so albums. I have this probably sitting somewhere between a 5 or 6. My standout is very obviously So Much for the Stardust.
So maybe I'm projecting here, but it sounds like you're like, this is a bummer that it was not Take This to Your Grave. I never thought that. I was like, hopefully this is a little bit like Infinity on High. And I think there's moments where it is. But like, I'd have to go back. But what the fuck happened to his lyrics, dude? Like, the lyrics are... like, even on songs I like, smash all the guitars so you can see all the stars. And, like, they're doing fucking interviews with Zane Lowe where they're like Pete's like, yeah, I wasn't going to come back unless we had something to say. Like, that's what you had to fucking say?
See, I didn't know all of that.
So you could fucking see all the stars. Like, God, it's so hard to be a fan of this album in any way. But, like, I'm unashamedly going to like the first and last song. I think that there's moments in the middle that are okay, but this is a massive failure as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Hey, man, that's super fair. And again, I didn't love it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with an open mind, but I was kind of expecting to not like it, and I liked it more than I didn't, I think. So
I think people should take that away. I went in expecting to like it. You went in expecting to not like it. We both ended up somewhere around the same spot, just walking away feeling a little differently as a result.
I will not be revisiting this album, so that's why it's getting around a 5 for me.
No,
so.
I think even though I know what you mean, you liked it as in like a 6. It's not like an album of the year contender or even a maybe that you'll have to revisit. It is what it is. All right, man, let's move on to this new one from Black called Since I Have a Lover. I fucking love this album. He leveled up in every way possible as far as I'm concerned. His vocals are great. The songwriting is among the best of his career. His production leveled up as well. The elongated instrumental outros to most of these songs were fucking beautiful. That little sax near the end of Playing House with the pitched up vocals gets me every time. My favorite track on this album is Talk because of how it nods to the Free Black era of his career in a way that feels new and fresh. And that surprise Wale verse and Stories in Motion just put the cherry on top of what was already one of my new favorite Black songs. I have this one probably at an 8, I want to say. It's among his best, if not probably his second best. My standout is obviously Talk. How are you feeling about this one?
All right, man. Well, coming in at just under an album or an hour, we have a fantastic R&B record that really, it honestly surprised me, man. Look, man, I've liked his singles and his features for like a while, and I have decided to go back and listen to his discography to kind of get a better understanding of how much he's evolved as an artist, because this album is fucking great. Sultry guitars paired with pianos on Playing House, trap beats, paired with like reverbed pianos on Fatal Attraction, flows and hooks paired with catchy synth melodies on Tit for Tat. We've got like glitchy electronic bits on Story in Motion, the acoustic guitar and like the soft wailing of an electric guitar on Testify. There's like a couple of tracks that I think might be like considered filler, but honestly, I enjoyed this album a lot. And every time I put it on, I rarely skip tracks. I was engaged through the whole thing, which, let's be real, is pretty hard for me to do with R&B. I think NRH is a fantastic closer for the record, man. I'm going to give it an 8. My standout was Playing House, man. That was a great track.
Dude, I am glad you loved this one as much as I
really
did.
Man.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I think considerably less toxic than a lot of the R&B that we've covered from male artists this past year or so. He's definitely in that wife guy, dad guy realm of his career right now.
Love that for
but his music is still very grounded, still very aesthetic when you listen to it. I love it. It's great.
Nice.
He delivered with what was like a 4 or 5 year absence.
Yeah, I agree. This was really good, man.
Moving on. We got a new one from JPEGMAFIA and Danny Brown called Scaring the Hoes. Please just dive straight in. I'm so interested on your thoughts on this one.
If this album doesn't scare you, you not a hoe. Look, man, it's an easy to understand concept, but it's not a very easy to understand execution on this one, man. I have admittedly not been a fan of JPEGMAFIA for a long time. And like we talked about last week, Danny's voice has annoyed me since the first time I heard it years ago. Regardless, I did go into this record with an open mind, and I have come out just as confused as I was when Lean Beef Patty dropped. I honestly, man, I just don't think that this is for me. I can appreciate the musicianship it takes to create something as interesting and experimental as this, but look, man, it's dense with synths and drum beats that create this like aura of madness, which is like exactly what they wanted to do. I mean, clearly that's what they wanted to do. I think the biggest problem I have with this record is that none of it's serious. Like, it's all just like a parody of a satire. There's like multiple layers of like irony over everything, which is fine. It's not supposed to be serious. And I guess that's why it's not for me. A lot of people had comments about the mixing on like Danny's voice. Apparently he recorded this like from his bed. I think that's kind of cool. But I actually think the mixing is fucking perfect for this album, man. If it was mixed better, it wouldn't have sounded this raw. Overall, man, I did like this. I'm just confused. It's like a good album, but not like to listen to or anything, but to like hear a few times and then remember the context of scaring hoes, experimentalism, and avant-garde nature of music in the 2020s. I'm glad that everybody else is liking this, and it'll probably end up on many a year-end list, but it will not end up on mine.
You think so?
I do think so. People are hyping it up like crazy. I think it'll end up on a lot of year-end lists. My standout was Fentanyl Tester, somewhere between a 5 and a 6. See what you think.
So, I think you could enjoy it and it not end up on a year-end list, because I thought that this album was more fun than it is good, but it came around at a time where I was looking for something fun to listen to, and it did the trick. It's a chaotic rap noise album that's built around old R&B samples. It's not something I knew I needed in my life, but here we are. You said you like Danny's rapping, but don't like his voice. And I can see how that can be a love it or hate it thing, but it's never really bugged me. Maybe that's because I grew up listening to a lot of Cypress Hill, but I'm just able to nod along and smile when he raps despite the way it sounds. My only issue with this album is, as you mentioned, the mixing, which I don't even want to start harping on again. I hate that so much of the discussion around this album has been about the mixing. It remains one of the few things I'd fix about it, but it is not that bad, people. Come on. Most of the charm of JPEG's music is the way that it sounds like a fucking guy in a room making songs, you know? Like, it's not going to be super polished. I think it pays off a lot more than it doesn't. I'm giving this album a 7. I had a good time with it. And despite Lean Beef Patty having an Usher sample, my standout is also Fentanyl Tester, because them
track.
Going back and forth over a chopped up milkshake sample fucking rules. Love that. Shout out Ellise.
Oh, man.
Let's move on to this new AugustBurnsRed album, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is their new one, Death Below. Please give me your thoughts on it.
Oh boy. I knew when we got Reckoning as a single that we were going to be in for a treat, and we sure were. I have been listening to AugustBurnsRed since they released Thrill Seeker. I think, what is that, 2004 or 5? Death Below is a cohesive album with seamless transitions, never-ending melodies, massive breakdowns, and like a grave sincerity that has come along with AugustBurnsRed since they started the band, which is exactly what I liked about Thrill Seeker. Their flair for the dramatic while maintaining a sincerity that is sometimes lost on metalcore bands in the scene as a whole. Let's be real, fan bases and the bands that make up the metalcore/deathcore scene can be super fucking corny, man. That doesn't mean that there isn't music to love within that realm of corniness. However, the bands that really stand the test of time have an air of like earnestness to them. And I think AugustBurnsRed does that really well. I think this album is the album that AugustBurnsRed have been trying to make for almost 20 years. There's symphonic elements. There are tracks that have like 3 fucking breakdowns. There's melodies. There's cohesiveness and elements of progressive metal that like take the shape of like a massive entry into their discography. The thrashy drums on Ancestry, the technical scales, and even some like mellow death worship on that single and on that solo and the riffs on Tightrope. The varied vocals and kind of like Calm Before the Storm style of a track and Fool's Gold and the Bear Trap. The new metal influence on Revival with like that palm muting is in like a sick as fuck breakdown. Reckoning with Spencer Chamberlain is such a perfect closer for this album. I was and am going to be continuing to be completely impressed with this record. Way to go, AugustBurnsRed. You did it again. 9 out of 10. My standout is, of course, Reckoning, but I didn't skip a song. So what were your thoughts?
Okay, what's your standout other than Reckoning? Because that's what I had to do too.
I mean, it's got to be Tightrope for me.
Okay, love it. The Tightrope's fucking phenomenal.
It's so there was just that at the gates style fucking riffing is dude. Just let's go.
Fucking kills it. So there was never a doubt in my mind that this album would be great. They have been the benchmark of consistency in metalcore for over a decade, and they are showing no signs of letting up with this. I love that they chose to do 4 collaborations on this album. I think all 4 features are excellent, but my favorite moments of this album are the ones where they're just doing what they do best. I love the almost spoken word intro that gets more aggressive as it goes until it spills over into my standout, which is The Cleansing, which is a dense and technical masterpiece that I can't stop listening to, and a track that I'm immensely glad they did not release as a single, because hearing that intro go into the first line for the first time was so fucking awesome, and I would not want to experience that any other way. This album is full of standouts, but other than The Cleansing, I found myself coming back to Dark Divide and, of course, Reckoning a lot. I'm giving this one an 8, maybe a 9. It didn't instantly surpass Constellations or Messengers as my favorite of theirs, but it delivered. It's one of my favorite metal albums of the year so far, if not the decade. I fucking loved this one.
Damn, man. I'm really glad you liked it. They did it again.
Yeah, they really did. they really did. Shout out AugustBurnsRed. Like, I think I was talking to them with somebody at work today, and they were like, you know what I don't like about them? They're almost too perfect. And I was like, I kind of get that. Like, their music and their career, really. It's just all been so perfect. It's weird.
Right, man. Absolutely. Oh, that's funny.
All right, man. Let's wrap up this week with our last album, which is Exile by Ne Obliviscaris. I know you've been looking forward to this one. Give me your thoughts.
It's as if Evanescence and Opeth met and hired a violinist to make a collab.
What a
album.
Sentence!
This is fucking fantastic, bro. I've been hearing about this band for a while. Like I said, when we were going to like starting to review the rollout for this one, I had heard a handful of songs prior, but this is the first full album I've listened to from them. I am wildly impressed, man. This record has it all. Intricate bass lines, guitar solos, breakdowns, violins, harsh vocals, clean vocals, double kick drum grooves, and multiple tracks over 10 minutes long. There are a lot of moments on this record that stand out to me, like the massive violin solo into the trippy guitar solo on Misericorde 2 is just sublime. Most of this record is sublime. The bass, as crazy as it gets with its intricacies, isn't tuned for metal. So we kind of get this like softening effect even as the vocalists are just screaming their hearts out and the guitars are just chugging along to double kick grooves. I loved this album. I will be listening to this album all year, and I'll be diving into their discography. It's a specific mood kind of album, though, like for sure. If like you don't want crazy and beautiful, it could be like a bit to adjust to. It's not a very casual listen, and I'm really glad that I sat down with like the lyrics and like really went into this one. My standout was, I don't know how to pronounce this, Suspire, between an 8 and a 9 for me. What did you think?
Dude, so I was expecting this album to be heavy, but I was not really expecting it to be as beautiful as it often is.
It's gorgeous.
They prove they can melt your face off immediately with the first track Equus, but you know that I always get overwhelmed by albums that are nothing but that. So I was beyond excited when they not only got melodic, but do it in some very creative ways. They incorporate a lot of strings in this album, and for the most part, they do it perfectly. I think they start to overdo it on the last 2 tracks a little bit, but when they're firing on all cylinders like they are for a majority of this album, it's unlike anything else that I've heard before. I didn't always like it, but I was always impressed by it. I'm giving this one a 7. My standout is Equus, obviously.
I'm so glad you liked this one. It was honestly kind of a toss-up whether or not you were going to dig it, and I knew you were going to like the beautiful parts of it. So glad you liked it, man.
Yeah, man, those strings really sunk in. And I know this is kind of a weird note, but they don't just use one string. There's like 4 or 5 minimum different string instruments that I've heard throughout this album.
Yep.
It's fucking great. Good stuff.
They really did it. Yeah, I'm going to be diving into their discography because I really liked this one. And I really liked all the music we had on this week, man. I don't think there was one that I really super disliked, so...
Yeah, I mean, I won't go back to Lana and Fall Out Boy, but they weren't among the worst albums that I've ever heard.
Right.
You want to know what we're going to be covering next week?
You know I do. Hit me.
All right, man. On next week's episode, we will be talking about new releases from Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness, Boy Genius, Chloe, A Certain Ratio, Conway the Machine, Larry June, and of course those deluxe edition Tyler the Creator tracks, and much, much more. I'm really looking forward to all of those. If you guys liked what you heard, please like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, peace.
Peace.